Pirate, did you tell him everything?
To be honest, I didn't tell him about the part where I do acid, coke, and heroin every day. That keeps me in the zone.
What's happening? Chris Redbeard Videos back with you for Fandom Files Dream Theater. I am going over my fandom of the great, epic, wonderfully amazing progressive metal band Dream Theater. One of my very favorite bands of all time. Just like one of my other subjects in Fandom Files, Kiss. I do have a strong love-hate relationship with this band. Mostly love, and I've been knee-deep in Dream Theater. Actually, I'm up to my neck in it. I've just been listening to it constantly over the past month as I explored, examined, and analyzed the entire catalog. And within that analysis, I have ranked every studio album from my least favorite to my very favorite. But before we get into more analysis, let's look back right now.
Someone save me. Look behind the veil. Please don't walk away. The fabric of reality is tearing apart the piece of me that died. Turn the key, walk through the gate. The greatest sense to reach a higher state.
Falling Into Infinity is one of the most divisive albums in Dream Theater history. And I wrestled with putting it this low because I almost wanted to be I almost wanted to put it higher just for contrarian sakes. Just to have people's minds explode all over their keyboard or all over their phone and go, what? He put it at number 3? I could have easily have put this album at number 3 because upon my reanalysis of this album, because for the longest time, I felt Falling Into Infinity was lacking in a lot of ways. But having listened to the entirety of the catalog in like a 3 or 4 day period, because that's how long it takes. It's a girthy catalog. Like it is. It's a lot. It's a lot to get. It's a lot to wade through. Falling Into Infinity might be. It's almost a perfect album. There is one reason why Falling Into Infinity is not a perfect album. But first, let me tell you some of the things I really like about it. A New Millennium is a great song. Very imaginative, new sound, which is interesting. One of the things you'll find about the Portnoy era, which I find fascinating and phenomenal, is a band like Dream Theater who actually currently right now in 2022 and 23 struggling with sounding different and doing different things. Never had this problem before. Now, I don't know if it's because they hadn't written that much yet, but like throughout the entirety of the Portnoy era, there was not one album that sounded like the next or the last. They all were different in one way or another. Either it be a production choice or it be a style choice or a writing choice. And granted, I notice attempts within the Mangini era, The Astonishing with their rock opera, or Distance Over Time with doing no songs over 10 minutes long. So I'm not saying they're not trying, they're just not being successful at it. And whereas with the Portnoy era, it happened constantly. And it took a lot of balls back then to do that because you were trying to be successful and build an audience. And this was their third album, their third official, like, big album. I know it's their fourth technically. And I know at least one Dream Theater fan is going to absolutely correct me in the comments. So have at it. We'll duke it out. That's fine by me. But for me, this is their third album. And right off the bat, you hear New Millennium, which has got a different sound on all fronts. First off, they had a new keyboardist with Derek Sherinian. He made appearances on the EP that came between Awake and Falling Into Infinity, which was A Change of Season. The EP, he was on there. He was on the tour for that, the cover songs and whatever. But this was the first like writing attempt because Change of Season was already written and more or less arranged. I mean, they added some things for that EP and changed the song up from its original form. But more or less, this was Derek Sherinian's first chance to really write with the band. And it showed. It's got a different sound completely.
It's all about you, not
also notice that the production is way different, and it's the third album in a row coming from the very, very clean sounding Images and Words, and then still clean sounding Awake, but more heavy sounding, more bottom end in Awake. And then Falling Into Infinity most certainly was trying to capitalize on the alt rock sound. Definitely was going for a more radio friendly, rock radio friendly sound. There's no doubt production wise that that's what they were going for, and it worked. In my opinion, it definitely worked for Dream Theater's music. There's no shortage of huge songs on this album. New Millennium clocks in at over 8 minutes. Lines in the Sand is like 13, 14 minutes. Trail of Tears is, I think, over 11 minutes long. So this album has its fair share. I think Peruvian Skies is over 7 minutes long. So they weren't pulling punches in terms of trying to continue their progressive metal nature and continue on the long song thing that they have built, but they also threw a bunch of like regular length radio songs in here, which were great. One of the singles that I used to hear on Long Island radio all the time, You Not Me, is just a great song and another glimpse into just the sheer, do I dare say, pop sensibility in terms of their melodic pop rock, not pure pop, no, but like a rock sensibility, just a regular rock music. Like You Not Me is a rock song. That's what it is. It's just a regular rock song. And it's cool. It's an awesome song. Peruvian Skies is so influenced by 90s metal that you could play Enter Sandman, and they do, live, in the middle of the song. So not only are they not shy about showing their influences here, but it's technical without being beat you over the head technical about it. It's Dream Theater trying to, I don't know, play the part of a popular rock band. You know, this album has the benefit of hindsight, because at the time we looked at it and went, Dream Theater's trying to be a radio band, and that kind of sucks. But we still like the songs. Like, I remember playing the hell out of this CD.
Lump in my throat, the size of a boulder, chill in my spine, keep getting it colder, and you wonder why I can't stop.
I'm going to skip over Hollow Years for a moment and go to Lines in the Sand, which is possibly one of my very favorite Dream Theater songs of all time. Doug Pinnick from King's X makes an appearance on this song. I've heard the live version of this song without Doug Pinnick, and it's still great, but Doug Pinnick makes this song 110%. As opposed to 100%. It's a 100% song by itself. Doug Pinnick makes this 110% because he's just phenomenal on this song. It's an all-timer, an all-time epic Dream Theater song.
Crown of thorns at my side, thorns in my side, drawing lines in the sand.
Amongst those other regular rock songs, Just Let Me Breathe, which also has, it's technical, it's got some progginess to it, but still, regular 4.5 minute song and a radio song. I could definitely hear that song on the radio without question.
Just as a light you can find out you see with your eyes.
The closer on this album is another one of the epic Dream Theater closers, Trail of Tears, which is such a great song. Great lyrics, great melodies, and it doesn't lose itself. Derek Sherinian performs very well on this album, although the only criticism I have of Sherinian on this album is that his keyboard sound does get grating after a while. There is a grating keyboard production and a sound that he chooses to use. And it's a bit much, so I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of the Sherinian sound on this album, but it doesn't take away from any of the songs. I just think going forward, if he were to appear on other albums, which he doesn't, it would have been a bit much after a while. He would have had to have changed that.
Once the stone you're crawling under is lifted off your shoulders.
So now my criticism of Falling Into Infinity, it lies in the simple fact that there is just one too many ballads on here. And the problem with this criticism is that it's a quantity issue, and it throws the balance of the record off. It's just too much. Like, Hollow Years, Take Away My Pain, and Anna Lee are great songs. Individually, they're great songs. One of them should have just been a B-side or an addition somewhere, or released on a they had a fan club back in the day where they would send CDs out with additional songs. They sent a Christmas song out once, or some live stuff or whatever, and one of those songs should have appeared on there instead of on this album proper, because it's just too much, especially given the fact that I notice it with Anna Lee. By the time I get to Anna Lee, I just want to get to Trail of Tears. And it's not a bad song. If I were to throw on Anna Lee right now, just on its own, I would rock out to that song. It's a great song. It's a great vocal performance by James LaBrie. It's a wonderful vocal melody. It's just a good song. It's just one too many, especially given the fact that Trail of Tears has a multitude of ballad moments. So it's just, I don't know. It feels like they're trying too hard for a hit. That's all. It's just my criticism. It's one too many ballads. Take one of those off, and Falling Into Infinity is a perfect record.
Petrucci was the main writer, absolutely. Like, he brought in a lot of songs. My biggest contributions I talked about earlier were Lines in the Sand, Hell's Kitchen, Anna Lee musically. Portnoy, he's a big part in kind of like guiding where everything is going in the songs. He was always very enthusiastic and instrumental in helping these songs go where they did. John Mayung, I think, was New Millennium. He wrote that intro, I think, on the stick, because that was what he was doing at the time. And then lyrically, I think Trial of Tears. I didn't write any lyrics on this. James, I think Anna Lee was the main thing that he wrote on. Portnoy, Just Let Me Breathe. And Petrucci wrote, most of the lyrics there. Someone asked me if the label wasn't so insistent on interfering with the creative direction, what I would have liked the song list to be on here. Well, I'll say that we spent a lot of time writing Metropolis 2 in that New Jersey rehearsal, and it would have been nice to have recorded that on Falling Into Infinity. I think that the album wouldn't have received as such a bad rap that it did if we were able to put Metropolis 2 on it.
Inspirational, virtuosos, everything, the way they gel like no other band, just best fucking band in the world.
So I come specially from Morocco to see their theater tonight. Yeah.
Give me some words and slices from New York.
The beauty about this band is every single individual is a god at what they do, and to put all of them together, I think that's what makes them so powerful all over the world, and it's not just here in the States.
They progress and change music like no other band ever has, and they are the progressive rock band of this generation. They will always be remembered. 20 years.
Woo boy! Now we're getting into it. So, Octavarium was a tough one for me. Let's take the middle 6 songs before we hit Root of All Evil and Octavarium. The middle 6 songs are fine. They're fine. They're not the greatest Dream Theater songs, and they're not the worst. At the end of the day, you need to realize that some songs have to be in the middle, and these songs are in the middle. And they're all good. The Answer Lies Within. Great slow song. Nice ballad. 5-minute song. Boom. No problem. These Walls is a fantastic radio-friendly, even though it's like 7.5 minutes, you could probably edit that song down and make it a nice radio-friendly song. Great song, These Walls.
Tear down these walls for me. Stop me from going under. You're the only one who knows.
I Walk Beside You, another, happy type ballad, spiritual, uplifting type of song. Really nice. Great melodies, good song.
When everything is wrong, when hopelessness surrounds you.
Never Enough is a good heavy song, right? And it's one of the few truly like very hard-hitting songs on this record, because the interesting thing about Octavarium is, again, change of tune, change of sound. The studio album before Octavarium was the incredibly heavy and dark Train of Thought. Not a lot of happiness there, not a lot of ballads there either. So they come out of Train of Thought and they hit with Octavarium, which has some hard hitters, which we'll get to, but for the most part, the production sound is way lighter. It's got a lighter air to it, just in general has a lighter air to it, and that produces songs like I'll Walk Beside You, and The Answer Lies Within, and These Walls, and even Never Enough, which is a hard-hitting song, but not as hard-hitting or dark as anything on Train of Thought.
I know whatever you decide, you're gonna shine.
Then we get the Sacrifice Sons, which speaks to the events of 9/11 in 2001, which quite unfortunately Dream Theater tried to had a album to be released on the day of 9/11, which was the live Scenes from New York, which was the entirety of Scenes from a Memory live from New York City. But we'll get to that in a little while.
Who would wish this on the people and proclaim that it's well be done?
Overall, Sacrifice Sons is a fantastic song. Like, it's just, it's a great, poignant, epically big, and I say epic a lot, but there's really, there's not very many words that describe when Dream Theater writes a song that has a lot of emotion and a lot of musicality to it in the whole bit. Like, it's just a phenomenal song, and it's really a great song. But here's the thing about Octavarium, and this is what sets Octavarium apart and made me have to take a deep breath when it came time to like flesh out my list here and put Octavarium in the 7 hole here. The Root of All Evil, the opener of the album, is probably the best album opener in the entire catalog, if not any catalog. It is such a badass opener, from the tribal type drums at the beginning to the opening riff. To the subject matter of substance abuse being the root of all evil. I mean, it's just a f***ing banger of a song.
Self-centered fear has got a hold of me, clutching my throat. Self-righteous anger running up in me, ready to explode.
But the true, like, diamond on this record and in the Dream Theater catalog, and probably, I wrestle with this a lot, with the long form songs, the 15-minute plus songs in the Dream Theater catalog, nobody does it better. Maybe Between the Buried and Me comes close. In terms of bands that have done more than 5 of these, I don't know if anybody does it better than Dream Theater. I really don't. Mars Volta does some great ones. So anyway, I digress from that. Comparing them to other bands in this area is almost nonsensical. So I can only compare them to themselves, and even within that, I have a hard time. Because you take songs like Octavarium, In the Name of God, Change of Season, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, Illumination Theory. It goes on and on. I wrestle with which ones are the best. And Octavarium very well might be. What I will say for certain is my favorite thing from Octavarium is John Petrucci's solo at the end. Here's one of the things, and again, I know I keep hearkening back to the Mangini era and how it compares to the Portnoy era. But here's the thing with what's going on with them now as compared to the past. When I listen to a song like View from the Top of the World, which is also a 20-minute big epic song, I found it to be boring. And so much so that when we got to the end of the song, I didn't even know it was over. Okay, like, so I was like, that's the end of the song? Holy crap. All right. Whereas with Octavarium,
the title track, I think, is one of the best things that, you know, Dream Theater has come up with. I think by the time John Petrucci comes in with his guitar solo at the end, I mean, I get the chills every time we play it, every time I hear it.
And he's 100% right. And it's my favorite solo. It chokes me up every time. It hits me just right every time without fail. Whenever I'm listening to it, when I get to it, I know it. And when you watch it on the score DVD with the whole orchestra and everything, it's one of the greatest moments in their career. It's amazing.
Some of our early music, when we wrote it, we were really young. Probably due to immaturity of songwriting abilities, we just kind of would throw these things together. One song, it would have all these different stylistic elements. It would have like a metal section and followed by like a little jazzy thing. You know, we didn't realize it, but that was kind of the charm of our style.
We're going to show you the condoms for each member of Dream Theater. This would be Kev's.
Yeah. Or this.
This, of course, would be James's. For John Mayone.
The chef.
And, of course, John Petrucci's. The Exaggerator.
これからも日本で頑張ってください。期待してます。
Said I don't like Dream Theater that much, but I had a pen and some paper, so what the fuck.
I know what you're saying. I'm shocked too. Number 6, Images and Words, the one who started it all. My life changed when I heard this. There was a debate recently on one of the Dream Theater message boards on Facebook that was talking about and going on and on about how angry this fan was about the fact that Dream Theater is playing Pull Me Under again on their European tour. And they didn't understand why when they have so many other great songs. Like, you've heard this before from other fans of other bands. You go to see Rush and you're going to hear Tom Sawyer. And you go to see Kiss and you're going to hear Rock and Roll All Night. And you go to see the Rolling Stones and you're going to hear Satisfaction and Start Me Up. And you go see whoever, name it, right? Name it. Go see Billy Joel, you're going to hear Piano Man. You go see, like, these are things that are going to happen, all right? It was their first song. It was their seminal hit. It was the thing that put them on the map, and they're going to play it because it's crossover stuff. It's for the crazy fan who's been a fan from the beginning, who brought their kid for the first time, who only knows like 2 songs and one of them is the big hit. Or for the teenager that got dragged there by their boyfriend or their girlfriend. Or for the guy who's there just with his friends and he's just like, oh, dude, I know this song. Like, that's why they play this song, okay? In addition to that, though, A lot like Rush, like my all-time favorite band, Rush. As much as Tom Sawyer is a banger and I'm never tired of hearing it, I feel the same way about Pull Me Under. I am never tired of this song. This song slaps. Forever. Forever. It's a great song. The fact that they made a hit out of this song, it's a miracle of ears and brain. And the fact that they made a career off this one hit is miraculous and wonderful. We are all blessed by this music, and it's all because of this album. With that being said, the reason why this album falls to number 6 is simply because it is just homogenized. The production on this album lacks. If this album had Awake's production, I would love it so much more. It's just too sanitized. It's too, like, perfect, which is weird because they're perfect all the time. It's never about their playing, though. It has no balls. It has no hair. And as heavy as Pull Me Under is, listen to a live recording of it, and it's 10 times heavier. And the stuff that is done on this album from a technical standpoint is mind-blowing. It is revolutionary. Images and Words is a revolutionary record. It is greatly damaged by its production in comparison to the rest of the catalog. In addition to that, the only other thing that I could criticize on this album is that there is a slight immaturity in writing compared to other records in the catalog, the ones that fall before this, and you can hear that. Songs like Surrounded, it just sounds immature, not from like they're childish or anything. It just sounds like underdeveloped Dream Theater. It sounds like the beginning. Everything on this album, with the exception of Under a Glass Moon and Metropolis Part 1 and Pull Me Under, honestly, sounds like a starter course in terms of what Dream Theater would become. And by no means is that an insult. It's just what it sounds like. You know, songs like Another Day with the weird Spyro Gyra saxophone. Awesome song. One of my all-time favorites. Love the vocal melody. Wish James LaBrie still sounded like that. It shows all that LaBrie was, and it's a time capsule that he will forever be able to look upon and be like, I was great for a long fucking time. And he was. But it sounds slightly immature. Take the Time is a very immature song compared to like In the Name of God or Octavarium even, which is an album that falls below this on the list. But like, if you take the epic, like the longest song on this album is Learning to Live at 11.5 minutes. And if I take another like 12-minute song like Breaking All Illusions from Dramatic Turn of Events, there's just no comparison. Actually, there is a comparison, but Breaking All Illusions is like, it's almost like a Pokemon, okay? Let's say it that way. It's like a Pokemon. Breaking All Illusions is the evolved version of Learning to Live, okay? And that's what I mean when I say immature. But with that being said, it's in the 6th slot and it's so high because of its revolutionary nature. And the fact that when I first heard this album, my mind was fucking blown. And I'm a Rush fan, like an ardent Rush fan at this point in my life in 1992. And my brain fell out of my head, and my dad had to scoop it up with a ladle and put it back in and goes, "What happened to you, son?" And I'm like, "You need to hear this." And he was like, "I don't get it." He didn't get it. I don't know. All in all, the entirety of this album would go on to be live staples in the Dream Theater catalog. Another Day was never a good live song. I will just say that. Even when Labrie was great live, back during the Awake tour, you can watch a video that's online of him doing Another Day, and it's butchered. It's not a criticism. That song's fucking hard. It's an insanely difficult song to sing. And he does a masterful job on this album. So his vocal performance is perfection. All of their performances on this album, perfection. Kevin Moore was great. I love Kevin Moore as a keyboardist. I'm sad that he left. Now, in retrospect, no. In hindsight, that's what I meant to say. In hindsight, looking back on it now, obviously it was great that Jordan Rudess came in because he rounded this band out, and we'll see why in a few minutes. But Kevin Moore was great. This album and Awake, his 2 albums with Dream Theater, are phenomenal. And everything he's done since then, from his work with Fates Warning to his solo stuff, all great work. I love Kevin Moore. I love Kevin Moore's stuff. This album just sounds dated. It sounds very much of its time from a production standpoint. And that's why it's at number 6, honestly.
Pull Me Under didn't start actually breaking until we shot that amazing video, wasn't it?
Well, we're in the dressing room, and Dave Chica, our first road manager, comes in and says, you know, the record company decided to shoot some footage tonight. We got some kind of deal going. We got some film crew coming out. They're gonna do this really cheap. So put on your best shirts.
Yeah, right.
It's ironic how the video that just was like a last-minute, low-budget, put-together thing ended up being the most played video off of the album.
Yeah. 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence with Dream Theater was inspired by the Korg Karma. What happened with that album was I had just gotten a Korg Karma and put it in the studio and kind of arrived there. We were just getting started working, and John Petrucci said, oh, you know, well, let's just come up with some themes and stuff and just kind of get some ideas about the motifs we want to use. So I was with my Karma. I only had it for like a couple of days, and he said, play me like the saddest melody you could think of. Play me like the saddest, most beautiful melody you can think of. Play something sad. And I'm like, came up with the first melody. Okay, now we need something really big and really glorious, and play something really like dramatic and big, you know. And I was like, oh, okay, how about this sound? I came up with, you know, big orchestra, and I played it.
So, Rubber, Road, High. Let's meet. Because this top 5, so 1, 2, and 3 were difficult. Wow. 4 and 5, equally as difficult in and of themselves. And I have a criticism for 4 and 5 that easily keep them outside of the top 3. So separating 4 and 5 from 1, 2, and 3 were easy, but within those boxes, oh boy, this was rough. So coming in at number 5, we have 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, and, you know, almost a perfect album, and it's a double album. So it's almost like they're at a disadvantage. It's double disc. This was a double disc. And what balls do you have to put out as like your, what, 4th or 5th album? It clocks in at over an hour and a half long. That's a ballsy move to put out an hour and a half long album. But they were coming off the success of Scenes from a Memory, which was a major success, a big tour, and I guess they decided we're going all in. We have so much music, we're just going all in.
She can't stop pacing. She never felt so alive. Her thoughts are racing. I set on overdrive.
Let's start at the end. The absolutely insane 42-minute piece, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. Now, I know half of you Dream Theater fans out there are going to say, well, technically, It's 8 separate songs because it's like a suite. It's not a song. Listen, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence is a song. Okay, I know that they break it up and play it like live in pieces, but they do that with Change of Season too. And Change of Season is definitively one song, like without question. And the majority of this song flows. I will accept, if you please, the first 4 pieces, Overture, About to Crash, War Inside My Head, and The Test That Stumped Them All, it comes to an end. Now, it doesn't fade into darkness or into silence. It goes right into Goodnight Kiss, but there is definitely a lull. So if you want to tell me it's in 2 pieces, in 2 halves, that's fine. It's still a 20 and 22 minute piece, regardless of how you slice it, right? So there's still huge songs regardless. But I treat 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence as one song. And in my opinion, I can't rank maybe I'll rank the epic songs before I go to number 1. Maybe that'll be my honorable mentions. How about that? I'm going to rank the epic songs. I'm going to wrestle with myself as I'm talking between my top 5 Dream Theater epic songs, which are the ones that are over 15 minutes, like 15 minutes or longer, okay? Oh. What did I just sign up for? Six Degrees of Inner Turbulence is just sheer perfection from the opening notes of the overture to the end of Losing Time in the grand finale. It is absolutely mind-boggling. It's absolutely just like brain out of the front of my head, not even out of the ears or anything, like, or the nose where it would normally go. No, it came out and it was just like, dude, what? The melodies in this song are incredible. Solitary Shell, Goodnight Kiss, and Losing Time are about some of the best melodies you're going to hear anywhere in prog metal, without question.
Fear fun sad most of the time. He was drifting in and out of sanity, but in every other way, he was fine. Sing it!
The War Inside My Head is like a full-on like homage to Megadeth era Holy Wars, Rust in Peace sounding thrash metal. It's just awesome. Fantastic.
Years of bloodshed and warfare, a mission was only to get in and kill. Free vacation, palm trees and shrapnel, trading an assets for permanence.
And The Test That Stumped Them All follows up with that. Without, like, it's completely like, they just go together perfectly, and it's wonderfully heavy, great technical performances with weird vocalizations from James Labrie and the whole bit. It's just completely wonderful. And then to close out, if you really want to see something very cool with 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, you gotta watch the live performance from Score. From the DVD Score, where they performed with the full Octavarium Orchestra. They did this song, they did Octavarium. Maybe you don't have time to watch the whole, like, I think it's like a 2.5 hour concert, but this song is worth listening to, and you can have it on, it's on Spotify. The album is on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. You can listen to it, and it's so cool to hear with a full orchestra. It's just so good. It's so good, especially when you get to the end and you hear the overture with the orchestra. It's just great. It's really great. Now, on to what makes this album even more interesting is that there's a whole first part of the album that has 5 songs. 4 of the 5 songs are sheer perfection, top of the line Dream Theater songs. Glass Prison, another banger of an opener. Another just absolutely just incredible opening song from Dream Theater, which has been the standard, if I'm being honest. 14 minutes of what the fuck to open your album is just, it's par for the course for Dream Theater for a very long time. It wasn't until recently that stopped being the case.
I'm trying to believe, stop wallowing in my self-pity. Waiting for you, my friend. The writing's been on the way.
Blind Faith, great song. Nice little 10-minute ditty. Even decent lyrics from James Labrie on this one, which is an oddity because Labrie is, I don't know, he's hit or miss on the lyrics. But Blind Faith is a great song. Misunderstood, completely different sounding Dream Theater song. This song sounds nothing like anything else in the entire catalog. The lyrics are absolutely phenomenal. It's one of my favorite Dream Theater songs of all time. I love the song Misunderstood so much.
How can I feel abandoned even when the world surrounds me? How can I bite the hand that feeds the strangers all around?
And The Great Debate. So it's a little bit of a lyrically dated song. It has to do with stem cell research and the decision that was made in the mid-2000s by the then President George W. Bush to allow stem cell research, which of course uses aborted fetuses and the spines of aborted fetuses or stem cells from, I mean, there's a lot of controversy around it. I don't really know the science behind it and what it yielded, but it was a decision that our government made to allow it, and Dream Theater spoke about it. And it was an interesting topic, and the lyrics are very good. But musically, the song is insane. And it's so good. It's just such a good Dream Theater song. It's another 14-minute banger of a song. This is where the song, this album, which is what, it's 96 minutes, so it's 90 minutes of perfection, okay? It's an hour and a half out of an hour and 36 minutes of perfection. It's insanely good. But the song Disappear to close out the first CD, what happened here?
Days disappear, and my world keeps changing.
It almost sounds like they were trying to recreate Space Divest. A better execution of the song Disappear appears on the album Train of Thought, in my opinion, which we will get to. But Disappear, if it disappeared, this album might be in the top 2 because it's perfection. And I had to nitpick it, but like, I mean, it's 96 minutes and it's only 6 songs. What? That's insane. And it's great. All of it. I can listen to this album at any day. I listened to it today, this morning as I was in the shower. I took in a complete shower. I groomed myself. I even shaved my head and trimmed my beard, all as long as it took me to listen to The Great Debate. One song. So that's the great thing about Dream Theater. You can do a complete task in one song.
The History of Progressive Rock by Mike Portnoy. Progressive rock started, I think, with Sgt. Pepper. I think that was the first album that really just took new artistic freedom to a whole new place. And then from there, Pink Floyd emerged the same year with their first album. A couple years later, King Crimson, yes, Genesis, took it into real progressive directions. I think the Beatles just I only cite that because that kind of broke all the rules, but that's what progressive rock was about, was breaking all the rules. Then more hard rock bands took the style, Deep Purple, Rush, Kansas, Dixie Dregs, Frank Zappa. Then the whole progressive scene died an ugly death at the hands of disco and punk in the late 70s. And suddenly progressive music became a dirty word in the industry. And there were a couple of bands that emerged in the 80s, Marillion, Iron Maiden, Metallica, that were influenced by the progressive music. And then the late 80s, Queensryche, Fates Warning. And then I think we broke the door open in the early 90s of making progressive music somewhat mainstream again. And then I think we kind of emerged as the poster boys for a whole new generation. We started writing Train of Thought in March 2003. We cooped ourselves up in a rehearsal studio in Manhattan in New York City and spent several weeks up there banging it out with the amps at full volume and writing as a live band.
I remember when this album came out. And this was a weird one for me on a personal note because I was in a bubble. I was in a personal bubble where I was married and I was having kids and I was in like the dad bubble, right? And if you're a father and you've had more than one child, you know what that's like, right? When you're young and you're in your 20s and you start having kids and you're doing that whole thing. And there's not much time for much else. You're just kind of in that bubble. So when one of my favorite bands puts out an album and it is such a stark like punch in the face, because Dream Theater, as heavy as they've been throughout their career to this point, through 6 albums, they never had like that mentality or the attitude of, come here, motherfucker, like we're a metal band. Like they never had that. They were always kind of like, yeah, we're kind of heavy, but we're super melodic too. And like we have keyboards, so like it's not that heavy. Train of Thought just bucked that entire notion completely. This album, it opened Dream Theater up to a whole new audience that they'd never had before. And clocking in at 70 minutes of just straight metal. There is none of that ballad crap on here. And I say crap because when you're talking about this album, you kind of have to be that guy. That's just what it was. And I don't know if it was Dream Theater like trying to be tough. Like if they were just like, listen, we're tired of being kicked around here. And at this point, I mean, it's 2003, so it's still early on in the game. This was before, like, Between the Buried and Me became a thing, or Haken came along and started adding djenty stuff. Or even Meshuggah hadn't even made a ton of noise at this point. I mean, they were in the, they were there, but they weren't threatening the Dream Theater realm. Meshuggah, as it is right now, I have a hard time having conversations with prog metal fans who are too cool for the room, who refuse to acknowledge some extreme metal bands like Dillinger Escape Plan and Meshuggah as progressive metal bands. They would rather just say, they're just fucking metal, blah, blah, like whatever. What's with all the Cookie Monster vocals? Like, whatever. So, when you come out in your Dream Theater and you're like, we're just going to be heavy. That's what we're going to do. God, they were effective at doing it too. And right from the beginning, the song, the lead single, and I believe the only single, because the other thing about this album was not only was it bludgeoningly heavy, but it was very long, clocking in at 70 minutes. And with every song except for 2 of them being over 10 minutes. All of them over 10 minutes. Like the opposite of Distance Over Time, where none of them were over 10 minutes. Every song on this album, with the exception of the first one and a very short 3-minute song, every other song was 10 minutes plus. And the lead single, As I Am, did have a radio edit that I had heard on the radio, and that's what turned me on. Like, I honestly was in such a dad bubble at this point that I didn't even know that they were putting out a new album. And I heard As I Am on the radio, and I was like, what is this shit?
To those who understand, I extend my hand. To the devil I demand, take me as I am.
And I was blown away. I was completely blown away by what I had heard. And then when the album came out and I listened to it, to this day, I remember my initial reaction was just, wow. Like, wow. They can be heavy too, all the time. Like, not just like, and to be fair, when I got into Dream Theater was the same time I got into Pantera. So, and I had forsaken my hair metal roots and my Kiss roots and all that stuff for Pantera, Rage Against the Machine, Tool, Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, like heavier stuff. And I still held on to Rush and Queensryche. And then Dream Theater came along and they were like my new thing as well. So those were like my groupings of favorite bands, okay? But the majority of what I listened to was very heavy. So it was very cool to hear one of my favorite bands who I had liked for a very long time to all of a sudden be this super heavy band. And lyrically, everything was dark. Everything. There was not a hopeful moment on this record. Really. From As I Am, which is, I don't know if it's hopeful, but it's definitely like, fuck off. It's a fuck off song if there's ever been one. Take Me As I Am. Like, I don't give a fuck what you think about me. This is what I am. This Dying Soul, which is another one of Portnoy's 12-step suite songs, which deals with his alcoholism and his dissension into addiction. Endless Sacrifice, self-explanatory. Honor Thy Father, which has one of the most badass beginnings of all time. Vacant, which I was talking about Pokemon earlier, is the evolution of Disappear. Except Disappear was nearly 7 minutes long from 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence and was not very good and boring, honestly. And Vacant, which is very effective and short at 3 minutes. Good song.
Oh Lord, helpless,
Stream of Consciousness, which is a phenomenal instrumental track. And this is coming from a guy, me, yes, and I'm a Dream Theater fan, who does not like instrumental music. Okay, I don't love Animals as Leaders. I don't love Steve Vai when he does just guitar stuff. Like, I'm not an instrumental guy, which is weird because a lot of Dream Theater's music is instrumental, but I love instrumental passages within very long songs that have singing in them. But I don't like instrumental music that are like long, prolonged, like just guitar solos and just instrumental. I think you get the point. Stream of Consciousness is an interesting one because first off, it's 12 minutes long, which is very long for an instrumental track. And then on top of that, it's not incredibly flashy. It's not one of those ones where it's just endless solos. It's a lot of riffs and it's a lot of atmosphere and it's a lot of just tension building, and it's so well executed. And it's called Stream of Consciousness, and I feel like that's what it is. And then Stream of Consciousness goes into possibly one of the greatest songs ever. It ranks as one of my very favorite songs of all time, and that's In the Name of God. First off, musically, it's absurd. The main riff is just absolutely filthy. It's just a filthy it's a filthy lick, and it comes back multiple times throughout the song, and it's just so good. James LaBrie's vocal performance on this song is amazing. It's wonderful. And the best part of this song, though, the music, from a music standpoint, is the middle section is just absolutely beyond anything I've heard before and since. Dream Theater has done a lot of mind-bending musical passages. Their catalog is not short on that. It's in very, very high supply. But the whole middle section of In the Name of God is amongst the best in the genre. The thing that really puts this song over the top, though, is the lyrics. I mean, lyrics by John Petrucci on this one are just absolutely stellar. Dealing with the topic of killing in the name of God in general, doing horrible things in the name of God and using God as your justification for bigotry, hatred, killing, doomsday cults, and sacrificing people in the name of God, polygamy in the name of God. Like, all of these things that happen in this world that people do in the name of God. And that's what this song is about. And it's really well executed and very, very well done. It's just one of the best songs. Listen to it. It's just amazing. I honestly have zero problems with this album. That's how hard this was. The only differentiation between this album and the ones above it are I just like the songs better overall on the other albums, but not much. It's like a fern hair. It's like nothing. It's a nothingness between this album and number 3, and then the number 3 album and number 2, and so on. Train of Thought is a perfect record. If you want to hear what the epitome of heavy progressive metal is, this is probably it. Especially if you're not someone who's into like the screaming vocals, the so-called Cookie Monster vocals. If you're into Cookie Monster vocals and the really heavy screamy vocals, then there might be other things out there that are heavier. There definitely is. Like Between the Buried and Me is heavier. However, if you're looking for straight melodies, this is the place to go. Train of Thought.
It's this is a monumental occasion here. It's April 3rd. We are officially done writing the album. Come here, I gotta show you something. Watch your step, there's a lot of crap around. This is it. Song 7, the instrumental. SOC, which stands for Suck Our Cocks. And we are officially done recording. Writing.
Wow. This is a big good stuff. Let me get in on the score here.
So we're going to attempt our first run through of this thing, but we probably won't get it right until tomorrow.
And today is April 3rd, and we started on,
I think it was
March 10th. We started.
March 10th. That's 3 weeks.
March 10th. We started.
Don't tell the fans.
No, 3 weeks.
Yes. We wrote this whole fucking album in 3 weeks.
Oh boy.